Everything, I gotta live like a king. Hey, catch this rhythm. You feel that? That's called playerism. I'm on the scene, a player clean, poker face, 4 queens. I got 4 of a kind on everything. Dig this, living elite. I don't feel complete without kicking at my feet in a Rolls Royce every week. Baby, this is deep. Listen close when I speak. I need to at least, cause I'm too much. I'd be a fool if I love him. You'll be a fool if you trust him. Here with my niggas, we keeping it gangsta. Yeah, I'm a slayer, I'm just keeping it player. I'm fucking her now, we're man eating it later. That's maybe why he is a hater. I'm wearing all black like I'm being a raider. You talk to police, we call you a traitor. I'm running the city, they call me for favors. I'm running the city, they call me the mayor. It's getting political with me, my street presidential, she give me the quit banging my line, ho. Quit banging my line, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. Come on, baby, get a clue. How you do what you do? How do you fall in love with me, but I'm not in love with you? Peace to the saints! Peace to the saints! Peace to the saints. We're back again with more Piers Morgan. Boy, isn't he milking all of the internet stars, the celebrities of tomorrow, the YouTubers. Oh, he's milking it. I noticed something curious today. I was looking at Piers Morgan's page to locate the Kanye interviews, of which it appears he really only released 1 clip, so he's trying to super milk it. And I observed, I was like, Piers Morgan only has 244,000 subs, which is amazing because he's had all these multi-million view interviews, which only lets us know that humankind doesn't really support Piers Morgan. I mean, I have about 40% the subs he has. I feel like I might need to be acting more cocky, apparently, because I haven't had any big interviews with super celebrities. So if he can do an interview with a Kanye West and still not see his sub count go up, I think that's because, generally speaking, he is a member of the establishment. He is perhaps only respected by the establishment and not so much by the viewers. We're going to get into it, you dig? It's the big homie, the one and only, the Black Hugh Hef. If they say they fresh to death, I guess I'm the level that comes after death. I'm what's next. The bald head lover. The coldest bald head brother since Michael Jordan. Tell chicks, shh, I'm too important to be listening to you. It's the big homie, Fax Kellerman, Stephen A. Pim. Your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber. Back once again. Here we go. First, let us start by showing love to those who show love to us. May I acknowledge Tyree. He writes, peace to the saints, be good to good people. Truly appreciate it. And let us all live by that 3-sentence Bible. Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. Michael writes, peace to the saints tuition.
On Cash App, we have George said peace to the saints tuition.
Peace to the saints.
And we have Jordan said peace to the saints.
Shout out to Jordan. You know, I thought I'd bring back a little bit of history, as indeed I am a fan of history. And it's often underappreciated. We have short memories in the modern era. We might forget that Piers Morgan, though today he might be using Kanye, in the past he has been speaking poorly of Kanye. This is very common. Piers, there's no loyalty or love in the entertainment industry. We've observed this among the establishment as well as YouTubers. They'll pretty much do anything for content. You know, one day they're bedmates, next day they're enemies. What can you do? You know, if your friend has a misfortune, your instinct is to record it and try to make content of it. That's the era that we're in. Let me start by showing you this little clip here, which I thought was quite curious. This is a clip from a couple years ago from TMZ of Piers Morgan speaking up on Kanye. And just side note, I don't know why Kanye's hats never seem to fit quite well, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways,
Never mind!
Kanye West is distancing himself from politics.
Ye took to Twitter to announce.
I've been used to spread messages I don't believe in. I am distancing myself from politics and completely focusing on being...
It is ironic that he said he was distancing himself from politics and now he's like purporting to run for president. That's kind of curious, isn't it? Can't say we can rely on Kanye's word, but hey, I suppose he has the makings of a politician in as much as he's lying.
Created.
A declaration some seem happy to hear. Right, Piers Morgan outside Craig's?
So what do you think about Kanye saying it's not going to be political anymore?
You know what, Kanye...
I just hate the way he says it. You know what, Kanye? You know what, Kanye? Fetch my tea and crumpets. First off, my boy, can you just pronounce his name like we all know it's supposed to be pronounced Kanye? You don't get to create a pronunciation. Anyways, back to Piers Morgan.
So what do you think about Kanye saying it's not going to be political anymore?
You know what, Kanye... I want to distance myself from Kanye. We all should.
That's ironic, Piers Morgan. You literally just stated that you'd like to distance yourself from Kanye, and yet you're getting as close as humanly possible to Kanye. And at what time do you do this? You do this at the time that he's most popular and he's a hot trending topic, which really lets us know more about your character than his character, because you said you want to distance yourself and you also stated before that Kanye should stay out of politics. Yet we see that the very time you go directly against your word is when he gets deeper into politics, making controversial political statements, making indications that he's looking to run for office, and here you are chasing that clout, which you seem to not be attaining very well, in as much as you only have 244,000 subscribers while being on network television, which in my estimation, it's very easy to gather up a couple million subscribers with the kind of exposure you have with the media monster pushing you.
Why? Because he's becoming a joke.
Talk about being dissed by your peers. But don't mistake Kanye leaving politics for leaving the side of Donald Trump, or else.
He went nuts on us.
So yeah, so right there, that's where we saw Piers Morgan calling Kanye a joke. And I hope that Kanye has some intelligent people around him who at the very least can do research and say, hey, Ye, you know, you should probably address this during your interview with Piers Morgan when he was dragging you through the dirt, and now he's trying to use you to get a little bit of fame and clout of his own, or maybe just some money on them ad runs, you dig? So I don't think Kanye addressed that, but in the little clip that Piers Morgan released in the DJ Vlad style, we're going to get a chance to get a sense of the interview. I've seen a number of clips, as I trust that you guys haven't. What I like about the clips is that Ye is not going soft with him. You know, he's not backing down from his statements. He's not allowing Piers to dominate the conversation. He's operating like a boss, as he should. So I'm very proud of Brother Kanye in as much as he's done that. And I think that when you line that up with what we saw with the Andrew Tate interview, and I know a lot of the Tate acolytes were like, Marquett, you didn't see the whole interview, which is true. I didn't have time or interest to see the whole interview because it wasn't very engaging. And more importantly, when you live in a modern media era, which is a soundbite era, it's not like a boxing match. A boxing match, if it goes to decision, you take everything in totality. Media is quite different. You know, you want to pack your good stuff toward the beginning because people have short attention span. So if you get blown out in the interview in the first 10 minutes, that might be all people know because they didn't watch an hour-long podcast. They just watched the first 10 minutes, saw you get blown out. The YouTube content creators took clips from the first 10 minutes, and that's that. But from what I heard from Kanye, it sounds like he was holding his ground, continuing to be engaging, entertaining, soundbite worthy, that's for sure. So let's go ahead and take a look at these clips and analyze what is there. And thank you to those who have supported the work. Certainly appreciate it, especially those of you who came on before we even really got started. Thank you.
You don't hold accountability to my pain. You're being a Karen.
I'm talking
you
about.
I'm not a Karen,
to the pain. I'm not a Karen, and I'm not going to cancel you, and I'm not going to uncensor you. I'm simply going to.
See, number one, I would have loved to have heard why Piers was called a Karen. That's the first thing. They kind of cut that piece out. And of course, we know that Piers is going to release the full interview a little bit later, when it can be increasingly profitable for him and his network. Number two, what I like about Ye is that he uses these buzzwords like care, and this is actually very clever. Now, in the case of myself, I'm the kind of guy to use it intentionally, but Ye, I think, has a great instinct for things like this. He knows how to like put that label on you that has social relevance in the culture. And so I think in as much as that is the case, he is genius in that regard. It comes natural. It's instinct to him. So that was really clever on his part because we know what a Karen is. Nobody likes a Karen. And you heard Piers go on the defensive and say 2 times, I'm not a Karen. I'm not a Karen. Well, okay, we'll see about that. Then the second piece that Ye went into, let me rewind this a little bit.
Karen,
to the pain.
I'm not a Karen, and I'm not going to cancel you, and I'm not going to uncensor you.
So Piers actually had a stumble with his words. He says, I'm not going to uncensor you. I think he meant to say, I'm not going to censor you, which is actually a lie because you're going to see a clip in a little bit that I play directly from the Piers Morgan YouTube channel. And you're hearing Kanye speak and all of the words are bleeped out. And these are not even expletives. He's not actually cursing. He's saying words that the PC police don't agree with, and he's being bleeped out, which is censorship. So ironically, on a show called Piers Morgan Uncensored, he's censoring. So it's really a sad thing, and Piers is clearly a dishonest person and an agent of the establishment. Matthew Stevenson comes through with tuition. Truly appreciated. Good to see your face again, Saint. And shout out to the Saints around the world. I was just walking through Bangkok, and a gentleman was like, hey, man, I subscribe. So, it's always nice to see guys around carrying on.
Simply going to challenge you on what you're saying. I think
you
you
can't
don't
cancel me.
understand the pain that you've been causing with some of these comments. And I think that one in particular, I can understand.
Oh my God. God forbid one comment could cause people to feel any of the pain that my people have went through for years. Even like the blacks being.
So one thing I want you guys to notice, and the reason I bring up the Andrew Tate interview is because both him and Kanye are heavy hitters in terms of clout and fame. And you'll notice 2 radically different approaches to the interview. And whereas in the Tate interview, you heard Piers constantly cutting off Tate. And I think none of us respected it. And in this case, in the little clip that we've watched, you see Kanye cut off Piers. And so in terms of who's dominating the airtime, it's radically different in that Kanye is dominating the airtime. And I don't think this is a result of media training. I think this is his actual personality. I think he's so bombastic and full of himself that he's like, look, I'm going to say what I got to say, and what you have to say is probably not as important as what I have to say. And it actually turns out to be a beautiful thing. It's very engaging, and it's going to allow him to win. If there's a such thing as a victor, he's winning, especially from an optics perspective and from a soundbite perspective, because all the sound bites are mostly going to come from Ye, 1, because he's being interviewed, and 2, because he's doing the most talking. So that's very strategic, and we have to acknowledge that he's being successful there. And also, one thing he also did that was very clever, and I, again, don't think he did this consciously, but I think this is just the way his mind is processing the affair. Piers does this whole routine, which is to try to get you to apologize. You see, he did the exact same thing to Andrew Tate. It's like an old trick that we're increasingly not impressed with. He asked Tate, oh, would you like to reform that? Would you reformulate how you said that now? Now that you have time to think about it, would you say it differently? Would you apologize? His whole thing is to apologize. And this is what the PC police are all about, is you reneging on what you said. You apologize. It's like apologize or get canceled. Then with Kanye, he was just about to try to take Kanye down that same road. And he was basically saying, oh, Kanye, you've been hurting people's feelings, as though your words hurt people's feelings and it's not okay. Like, first off, Kanye was not talking about a specific individual, which is to suggest that if he's talking about a group of individuals, well, you would have to choose to be offended. For example, if someone said, black guys commit a lot of crimes, I'd say, true or not. I mean, I don't feel like that pertains to me because I'm not out committing crimes, not at this stage in life. And, so I'm not offended. He spoke about a group. They didn't speak Marquett Devon Burton's name. So someone would have to select to be offended. And Piers, being a part of the left, he's in disguise, but he's a part of the left. he's trying to make it seem like, one, Kanye's words were really hurtful, which they were not. And number two, he's basically trying to lead Kanye down that road of him moralizing and making it seem like he's the ultimate judge of morality and Kanye's a bad guy and he's a bad boy and he's done something bad. And here I am, Piers Morgan, giving you a spanking and I'm going to have you account for what you've done. So you're going to apologize here on Piers Morgan. It's always the goal of his show is to get you to apologize, which is basically like to say he won the fight. Shout out to Danny Platinum writes, peace to the saints. Your time at the top will come. It's not about who did it first. It's about who did it right. Preach. True indeed. This man is a prophet over here.
Being ushered to the left during the civil rights movement. No one has cared about black people.
All right.
No one is.
Let me say, I agree that the racism against black people has been utterly deplorable.
First off, can we all just take a tea, you heard me? Do any of us believe that Piers Morgan cares about racism against black people? Just side note, do any of us truly believe that Piers Morgan cares anything about the blacks? I don't believe that. I don't find that to be authentic in the least bit. I mean, if someone does, let me know. If you have an example, like Piers Morgan used to serve Church's Chicken on Sundays in Compton every weekend. He'd volunteer and do this. He loves the blacks. So if you have some evidence of this, let me know. Carrying on.
Shameful, unacceptable, and thank God the world is beginning to move to a better place about the way it has treated black people like you. However, one form of racism doesn't justify.
It's almost in a better place.
Well, one form of racism doesn't justify another.
It's not a better place.
I'm not cutting you off. I'm finishing my sentence.
See, I like that. So right there, Ye is already establishing from the very beginning that you're not going to dominate the verbal discourse. And if you would seek to do that, I'm going to contend with you every time. And not only will I contend with you by continuing to speak, I'll also contend with you by pointing out that you're cutting me off. And this is the precise recommendation that I made to Andrew Tate. And I don't know if Ye saw the recommendations, but he's doing precisely what I've recommended. And so he just said, you're cutting me off. And then Piers countered stating, well, I'm just completing a sentence. And so this is good dueling right here. I like what I'm seeing.
So you can respond. One form of racism. It is racism when you say I'm going deaf for Jewish people.
I was in a position where I've been hurt, and this is the way I had the right to express myself. The point of this interview is for you to question me, and then for me to answer and say, okay,
Okay, now let me point out the boss talk if that got by you. Anytime I host a meeting, I always state at the beginning, our outcome or our goal of this meeting is this, this, and this. That's called setting the agenda. When you set the agenda, whether it's in politics, in business, or what have you, you're establishing yourself as the leader and the boss when you set the agenda. Furthermore, you are, of course, in everyone else's mind, whether consciously or subconsciously, establishing an endpoint and a road for them to walk down. So Ye, even though it's not his show and he's not the host, he's not Piers Morgan, he's saying the point of this interview is for you to ask me these kinds of questions and for me to express this. That's very powerful and very strategic, and I like that. And it also lets you know that Kanye went into this interview with some sense of goal and some sense of mission, which I think might be a bit different in terms of his level of clarity and how much he's sticking to that goal than maybe you've seen with other folks who have been on Piers Morgan. Shout out to Anthony, comes in, writes, peace to the saints, truly appreciated. We have John the Don writes, if you were debating Morgan, part of the apology tactics is to get you to submit to him. Oh, indeed. And I would even make a fool of him by saying, oh, Piers, I would like to apologize. I would like to apologize for the fact that I took the opportunity away from other honest men who are more important than myself. Honest men like Joe Biden, honest men like Piers Morgan, who should have already called out these folks who run the media and do X, Y, and Z. So I would have given a sarcastic or ironic apology for my own entertainment. You see, with a personality like Piers Morgan, he thinks he's quick-witted, and so you want to, play into that game a little bit and outperform him in his own, area that he thinks is his expertise. He writes, would you feel insulted by the display of arrogance? Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, arrogance, like that's my wheelhouse. You see, that's my wheelhouse. Now, I feel fantastic in that area. There's just a couple things you're not going to beat me at. Not even Ye is going to beat me at arrogance. If we're going to talk fly, let's get after it. He writes, how do you control emotion in that type of scenario? Well, the key is not only, you see, some people think controlling emotion is to not display emotion. Emotion is very useful. It's only the low IQ folks on the internet who repeat things that they've heard, and they tend to say things like, oh, you're emotional, as though emotionalism or emotion itself is always bad. It can be very useful. In fact, emotion is what allowed an Adolf Hitler to appeal to a nation of some of Europe's most educated and sophisticated citizens. It was the emotion and the passion. So emotion can be very strategically used. I wouldn't have become emotional because Piers Morgan is no worthy adversary. He's laughable. And so, I would have sparred with him and defeated him quite easily and enjoyed the process. You only would become emotional when you go in there without a plan or an inferior plan and you start to get destroyed. But my actual personality is to keep it cool and keep it player. So it would have been not a problem at all. And I mean, at the end of the day, consider this. Piers Morgan seems to be having trouble with Kanye West, right? And he didn't even really have any clever rebuttal when Kanye said, Piers, how much money are you worth? And then he says, well, not as much as you, Kanye. And then he says, yes, so you should listen to my advice. Now, you see, there are a multitude of great comebacks that you could have leveled at Kanye right then and there. You could have said, Kanye, that's true. But what if I turned around to you and I said, well, what college did you go to? Okay, well, you dropped out of college. I went to Oxford University. Maybe you should listen to me. There's so many ways he could have played that, right? Or he could have said, hey, Kanye, you're divorced. Like, so why don't you listen to me? I'm still married. I can maybe give you some advice on how to get your wife back. Like, there's so many comebacks, but Piers wasn't quick on his feet because, as I often point out, untamed emotion is the enemy of performance. You see, even when I appear to be angry and you think I'm emotionally out of control, I'm still not. I'm deciding to display emotion strategically. And that's called metacognition, when you think about your thinking and when you can look at yourself from the outside, and very few can do it. Shout out to Jay. He writes, I find myself hearing your voice in my head telling me to work harder or saying, you dig. How do I create the same impact and be more remarkable? Well, if you're talking about impact on yourself, or if you're talking about impact on others, these are two different things. The most important person to impact is first yourself. Really, you want to be a winner yourself before you can tell anyone else how to do it. And it'll be more authentic and more well received once you've won yourself. That's number one. Number two, when you say, how can I create the same impact? Well, I like to do a lot of writing and meditating in the morning. That's how I talk to myself. As people often like to pray. Praying is fantastic. Praying is you're talking to someone else. Meditating is you're talking to yourself. I think that'll help drive your impact on yourself, which is the most important thing. You are the most important person in your life. You are the most important person in your world.
On PayPal, we have Jelani said, peace to the saints tuition.
Peace to the saints. Good to hear from Jelani. It's been a little while. Devontae writes, Marquett, how could you say Piers doesn't care about black people? He's clearly holding Kanye accountable for his lack of ability to be controlled. Peace to the saints. I hear you on that one, right? Talk to me. Shout out to Christopher Simpson, sends intuition. Appreciate that. And shout out to those who support the work.
Though the same rules are not applied to my people, if a person with a gun or drugs is pulled over and has three other people in the car, they're all going to jail. I'm not going to apply that to Jewish people for the sake of this conversation. Isn't that what you wanted? But you know what you did? You tried to civil rights me. You tried to pull me back to a week ago, but we're here today. There's been plenty of conversations and commentary since that, but you want me to go back to 1960.
No.
You want me to go back to 7 days.
First off, low key, Ye, sometimes he makes things sound good, even though he does not quite make sense. I'd say this last little passage he spoke does not quite make sense, low key, but he passionate as hell though, and it looked good. It looked good. And the funny thing is that he's being very accusatory, and this is strategic. He's being accusatory with Piers, and he's causing Piers, rather than be the interviewer, now Piers is the defender. He's trying to defend his own position, perspective, and approach to the whole interview. And this is really good stuff. And I think that a part of this instinct in Kanye comes from the African American speech culture. It's called playing the dozens. It's called roasting. It's called bagging. And so he knows how to be in that verbal dueling. And I think that we saw a lack of that in the Andrew Tate situation. Not to say Tate is not as intelligent, if not more intelligent than Kanye, but I think just that little bit of strategy or instinct wasn't there. And I also think the difference between Tate and Ye is that Tate went in saying, okay, maybe I'll clean up and play nice and be responsible and kind of like have a bit more of a civilized veneer. Maybe I can get back on, get my platform back. Conversely, Ye is coming in like, look, I'm doubling down. I said, F them, F them. Hey, tap him on the shoulder. F you too, F them all. I'm sticking with it, riding it out. And it's important to understand that I think they have two different types of fame, right? Still, the mainstream has not really accepted internet or YouTube fame in the same way that they've accepted, media, like traditional media fame. And that's what Kanye West has as a musician. And when you have musician fame, the type of fanatics that you have on board with you are different than the kind of fanatics that an internet or a YouTuber will have. So, we're still learning about this new media and the new media celebrity. Kanye is of the old world celebrity, and that's still a very powerful type of celebrity, as is Piers Morgan, right? Because low-key, he ain't popping on YouTube. He has 244,000 subscribers, but we still know him to be a celebrity in the old world style.
Kevin sent tuition on Cash App.
Shout out to Kevin. Computer performing slowly?
No, this was already up. You took it down.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Shout out to Vaughn. He writes, Piers is the only interviewer who routinely overtalks the person he's interviewing. It's infuriating. Vaughn, I wish what you were saying were true, but unfortunately, I've noticed this occurring on many platforms. Vlad overtalks people who are trying, he'll ask them about their experience and then start telling about his experience. So there are a lot of folks who are supposed to be interviewers, but they damn near end up in a debate, or they're trying to outshine the person that they're supposed to be making look good. It's quite a strange thing. And comparably strange is the fact that people watch, they don't send in tuition, which is fine, but they don't click the like button, which takes nothing from you. It takes nothing from you to click the like button. You don't lose any money. All you do is show some of the goodness within yourself, which is to give, the least of tokens, something that costs you nothing, takes you nearly no time, helps the video in the algorithm, but doesn't hurt you whatsoever. Why you would sit on the like as though it has some kind of value, I don't know. But ask yourself, or if you want to tell me, feel free to let me know.
Days ago.
All right, let me jump in. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to reflect.
Okay, so have we grown? Have we grown?
Here's how we grow. Yeah, here's how we grow. I want you to reflect.
No, have we grown?
Have
we grown? You're not in charge of my growth. You're not in charge of my growth, Chris.
Okay, let me phrase it like this. I'm about to suggest to you how you may grow if you choose to grow this way. And you can ignore me. You can ignore me.
Piers, how much money are you worth?
So there's a couple really juicy pieces to this right here. So number one thing I can advise you all on, if you're ever in an interview, whether it's a job interview or otherwise, or even just talking to a woman, you'll see Kanye shifting in his seat a lot. He's repositioning himself, which is a indication, it's a physical manifestation of what you would call discomfort. Or in Kanye's case, it's frustration. He's internally frustrated. It's manifesting in the reshifting in his seat, repositioning himself. That's number one. Number two, the thing that I find to be annoying, and as the last super chatter wrote, infuriating, is that Piers Morgan positions himself as a moral authority. It's like, where did you get that authority? Like, you've been divorced before, which is to say you have a broken marriage just like Kanye has a broken marriage. There's nothing really particularly impressive about you. You're not a scholar of anything that we know of. You've been a reporter your whole career, which is to say that you're not a great man. You report on the activities of great men. You don't make history. You report on historical events and current events. So you're just a speaker of word, not a doer of action. So who elected you to some authority position? You have no authority. So why he's taking this patriarchal approach to another grown man who's more famous, more accomplished, more relevant, I don't know. And I wish Ye would have pointed that out a bit more strategically, but he pointed it out in a way that was very humorous, and goddamn it, I enjoyed it. Real boss dog. And I'm going to play it for you, and then I'm going to repeat it 30 times because it entertained the hell out of me. So I'm about to play this for you. So basically, Piers, being a very arrogant white man, it's like an arrogant liberal white man, which is, there's not a ton of them. It's usually the liberal white woman, but I guess he's been affected and with this sickness. And so he's like, let me tell you how you should grow. Like, oh, that's funny, Piers. We've all been seeking your sage advice, you nobody. So then this is how Ye responds.
Suggest to you how you may grow if you choose to grow this way. And you can ignore me. You can ignore me.
Piers, how much money are you worth?
Not as much as you, sadly.
I love how he said that like he was a white girl from Orange County. Piers, how much money are you worth? Piers, how much money are you worth? Oh, he said it like a cocky, spoiled brat white girl from Orange County. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a beautiful thing. And that's a very funny question, but it's also a relevant question, which is to say that if someone's outperformed you in a given area, you know, they might have more expertise or more intelligence, or they might know something, and it is indeed worth listening to them. And in as much as Ye is more famous, more wealthy, you know, has more notoriety than Piers, I mean, he has a point here. And I think that Piers got caught off guard and got totally verbally slapped in the face. He didn't know what to say right now. Like, sadly, not as much as you. Well, that's not very clever at all.
Exactly. So take my advice. Maybe you'll get richer.
I would love to take your business advice.
Why would I listen to you?
Well, why don't you hear what my advice is and then work out if I'm wrong? Can we do that deal?
I also want to shout out to Ye for laughing at Piers right now. And this is important. When you laugh or when you laugh at someone, you trivialize them. The left has been really good at this, and they have shows like that show with Trevor Noah, which is funny because he's not even an American, but he's like kind of masquerading as an African American, which these people often do. He's masquerading as an African American, even though he's like South African. A very pale one at that, but he's South African. He's masquerading as an African American. He's their token black guy, but he's not even like African American. It's amazing. Anyways, he's on American TV. And what he does, being a comedian, and he's a very talented comedian. I don't know who's writing for him on this show that he does, but he takes people who are reasonable or are outside of the liberal ideology, and he tries to make fun of them and belittle them through humor and make them a laughing stock so that no one takes them seriously. And that means you crack jokes on these people and then you laugh at them. And Ye just instinctively, and I think he actually does feel as though Piers Morgan is a peon. And he is a peon, right? So Ye is actually doing the exact same thing. He's like, Piers, how much money are you worth? And then Piers, not as much as you, sadly. And then he says, well, then that's why you should probably take some of my advice. Maybe you'll get richer, which is funny and probably also true. And then, probably not true, but still, then he says, he starts laughing at him. And I think that's the key right there, because it's demoralizing to Piers, and it also puts Ye in a position to where it's clear that he has no real respect for Piers, and he shouldn't. So this is really good. I like how Kanye is moving right now.
Well, the thing is, you haven't given me any credit or a moment of reflection for the comparison that I made, the brilliant, if I do say so myself, comparison that I made to the cops pulling over one black person and locking everyone up.
I understand what you're saying.
Notice Piers Morgan's radically different demeanor in this interview versus Andrew Tate's interview. Well, if you play back, I did a review of that one. Do check it out. You'll see in the Tate interview, Piers Morgan is a lot more smug, a lot more aggressive. He's cutting him off way more. And in this interview, Piers seems to be a bit drained of energy. Piers looked like he tired. He looked like he wore it out. So Piers is in a whole different ball game. I don't know entirely what's motivating that, but you're seeing a different Piers Morgan here, and it's important to note. Shout out to Ahmad. He writes, "Hello Saint, how are you? This is Just Tuition. I appreciate that. I'm well. I'm well. You know, had some stomach challenges, which, you know, is typical when you're moving around a lot of different countries, and, you know, they have different health standards, and unfortunately I tend to get too adventurous, but I am well. Thank you for asking."
On Cash App, we have Ken. He said, would you be able to review Alex Jones versus Piers?
I would. I think the Alex Jones versus Pierce was like 9 years ago, right? So it's a bit of an old one, and I'm trying my best to stay more contemporary because unfortunately people don't really tune in unless things are, you know, very recent. So probably not something I would do, being that it's a bit old.
And Melvin said, sending in tuition, peace to the saints.
Shout out to Melvin, peace to the saints.
Tweet having issues. Wait a second, I wasn't done with the sentence. My tweet referring to all Jewish people, I said, for the sake of this conversation, I will refer to the business people who have destroyed me and my people and my...
Why Kanye West sweatshirt look like he just finished doing construction? Why did Kanye West look like he getting paid $13 an hour? Why Ye look like you just picked him up in front of Home Depot? he really Dominican. You didn't pick him up in front of Home Depot, and he did just installed a whole new floor in your shower. Why? Why he look like a hillbilly from Virginia with that hat on? Is that a camo hat? Is that hat camo? This is crazy. He looked like he didn't just finish hunting. Oh my goodness. All right, sorry about that. Carry on.
My fellow creatives, but you didn't even accept that I gave you that. You tried to push me back into 1960.
No, I didn't.
Tried to push me back into last week.
No, I didn't.
Okay, do you accept that example that I gave you?
I understand completely the example you gave me. I think all racism is wrong.
So I feel that we've grown.
I would like you to reflect.
I feel we've grown.
If
you feel we've grown?
If you've now changed what you wanted to say.
Well, look, Ye smiling at him. And one thing you'll note from the last analysis I did is that with regards to that media training and the way that you are putting out your image, the one who's smiling and enjoying the process is the one who appears to be winning, whether they are or are not. And that was something that I pointed out that we didn't see on the face of Tate. Whereas if you just look at this still right here, you'll see Kanye is showing the pearly whites, and Piers Morgan has a rather serious look as he has indeed been a bit on the defensive here. Shout out to Marcos. He says, get those likes up in a real way. And thank you to those who really support. Shout out to the saintly among us.
Originally, my question for you is, do you now regret saying DEFCON 3 on Jewish people? Are you sorry you said that?
No.
I don't think it matters. You should be.
Absolutely not. You know.
Shout out to Ye. He said, absolutely not, my boy. Shout out to Ye for being a real one. And also shout out to Joe Lacuto for being a real one. Since intuition, the saying is very consistent. Mr. Yusuf writes, feel better. Ginger helps with stomach. So if you like tea, try ginger tea. You know what? I actually don't drink tea at all. But if I get the opportunity, I will tell them to break your boy off with some ginger tea. I appreciate the advice. My boy Ye said, not at all. And it's ironic that Ye just said he doesn't regret what he said at all, yet the headline of this video is Ye apologizes for anti-Semitic tweet. It's funny that we have to apologize for tweets anyways, considering a tweet is just a string of letters. I thought the idea was sticks and stones break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So how is it that words addressed to a mass group, not even a particular person, are so hurtful? Quite strange, especially when you're casting words at some of the most powerful people in the world. You would think such words wouldn't be bothersome. And one thing I think we can all agree on is the reality that, well, if it's lies, we can all just shrug it off. But sometimes when things have that special ingredient called truth, then they tend to bother us. You see, I think they say truth hurts. That's what they say, right? Mike Young writes, peace to the saints. Thanks for the ism and raising the level of proficiency of men of all colors and creeds. You are doing God's work. I appreciate it.
They all want you to have tea, so we'll have to get some tea tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Tease the way.
Oh, I will say I'm sorry for the people that I hurt with the DEF CON, the confusion that I call. I feel like I cause hurt and confusion. And I'm sorry for the families of the people that had nothing to do with the trauma that I had been through, and that I use my platform.
See right here, this is not good. One thing you'll notice with politicians is they pretty much never apologize until you got them like busted on videotape doing something egregious. Otherwise, they're just like, it didn't happen. It wasn't me. I don't recall. You know, the politicians behave like the old mafia guys used to behave when they were on the stand, which is I ain't see nothing, I ain't do nothing, I don't know nothing. And right now when Kanye is basically, trying to be nice, this is a bad idea, because the moment you do that, now all of your detractors are saying, see, look, he was wrong. He admitted he was wrong. I said he was wrong, and now he's admitting it. Look. You don't want to do that. I'm not advising you in your personal relationships to never apologize. That would be petty, immature, and dishonest. That would not be an integrity-based position. But in the public forum, operating as a public figure and leader, and Kanye making a dip into politics, there is a reason that politicians don't apologize. It gives too much fuel to your enemies, especially when you're apologizing on media, and it will be immortalized. There will forever be videos that we can reference of that time Kanye was wrong. That time Piers Morgan proved Kanye was wrong. That time Piers Morgan made Kanye apologize. And in this particular instance, I don't think that Piers Morgan even drove this behavior or this realization. I think Kanye is being what in his view is just sincere, and he's sincerely acknowledging that his words may have been reckless, but this is not a proper thing to do. I wouldn't recommend it.
Hey, Gage sent tuition.
Shout out to Gage.
We have Kevin, this is the one from the very first conference.
Wow, way back.
And he said peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints. Good to hear from the saint. Indeed.
Levon is back for the third time. He said, also, I wanted to thank you for the same great advice. I started putting deadlines on my tasks, and I noticed I get more done in a shorter amount of time.
Yes. And I would advise everyone to do the same. In fact, when you start your day, what's this day going to be about? Now, let's go ahead and get that to-do list prioritized, because I know you've all have had that terrible feeling. You went through a whole day, and at the end of it, you're like, dang, this day passed by so quickly. Like, what did I do today? You ever had that feeling of like, what did I do today? Which is to say, what did you accomplish? And it feels like you've done nothing, which may not be true, but if you didn't set the goal and track it, that's how your days feel, and you don't want a whole life to pass by in that same way. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Where you say hurt people, and I was hurt.
It's an uncensored interview. You said something which you've now wished you hadn't said, and you've apologized. I actually think that says a lot about you. Right? That shows you've got that ability to be self-aware, to understand when you cross a line. I think someone like you, with all your energy and creativity.
Piers is a funny guy. I wish at this moment Ye would have interrupted him and say, hey, Piers, you remember when you were on TMZ and they asked you about me and they said that like everyone should distance themselves from Kanye? And then you, Piers, said that Kanye should stay out of politics. And like, yeah, being that I should stay out of politics and that you want to distance yourself from me, like, why are you like doing the opposite and bringing me on your platform, especially when I'm talking about politics and considering a run for political office? Why are you going back on your word, Piers? Like, why am I relevant enough now for you to, talk about or interview? I wish you would have just asked him that, because then we can start interrogating Piers Morgan's character in the way that he's interrogating everyone else's character. You see, he's always pointing the finger, but not enough fingers are pointing back at him. And so the problem is that what he does is he puts the interviewee, the subject, under a microscope morally, yet it's rarely flipped around, and it's absolutely necessary.
And your passion.
Go ahead. Oh, you're caught up, huh? Okay.
You're going to say stuff. The way that you talk constantly and in such an extraordinary manner, you're going to trip up. You're going to say things the wrong way. I don't think there's anything wrong in when you do that, doing what you just did. and say, look, I'm sorry, I crossed the line, I apologize.
I want to say that it's wrong to hold an apology hostage, and I got to let go of that and free myself of the trauma and say, look, I'm just going to give it all up to God right now and say to those families that I hurt, I really want to give you guys a big hug, and I want to, I say I'm sorry for hurting you with my comments, and I want to work.
So this is weird to me. It's like, number one, what are you talking about when you say those families that I hurt? I don't know why you're putting it in the context of families, because the concept of family has resonance in every culture, on earth, even cultures like African American culture that have a lot of broken families. The term family itself has so much resonance, so much meaning. That's when we get emotional about our family. We die for our family. We live for our family. We sacrifice for our family. So to put this in the context of you hurt families, it makes you actually sound like a very bad guy, Kanye. So I think that's very foolish, actually, on his part, linguistically, and also the whole concept of giving an apology to families. And truth be told, I don't even know what he's talking about right now. Like, what are you talking about, bro? This is about the DEFCON 3 comment. I don't think this hurt families, to be honest with you. I don't think there were any Jewish families that were about to sit down for dinner and have some matzo ball soup, and they're like, hey, what do you guys think about Kanye West, what he said about us? I don't think like families were discussing you like that, bruh. To be honest with you, I think it's just the folks who own the media giants and the folks who are in the government and the big halls of power that were concerned about you shining a light on things that they'd rather be in the shadows. Shout out to Mitchell, comes through with tuition, truly appreciate it. So let's hear more of Kanye kind of like basically going back on what he said, which really is not going to strengthen his base of support. Your base of support are the people that like crazy Kanye. They like Kanye that's going to say whatever he feels. And this makes sense historically. The reason Tupac was such a captivating figure is because, he yelling out thug life. You heard me? He coming out of the courthouse after catching a case for sexual assault, spitting on reporters, flipping people off, yelling out thug life. Like that's the Tupac we like. We like the lit Tupac, the hit 'em up Tupac, the gangsta party Tupac. We don't want to hear like this reserved, resigned, civilized, apologizing. Nah, go up, go off. And if Ye learned anything from his idol, Donald Trump, I don't recall the Donald making any apologies, and the Donald then says some wild stuff. Grab her by the, and I still ain't tried that. You heard me? Low key, I need to. And I really missed some good opportunities. But anyways, the Donald ain't apologized for none of that. Carrying on.
Worded and not in like a political way, but in a presidential way, which means what I knew a president to be when I was growing up.
That doesn't even make sense. Like politicians have changed since you were growing up. I think they've been fundamentally the same. That's why the country's in disrepair. Shout out to Screeches, comes in with tuition. Speaking of presidents, we're now going to play the comments that Kanye West made about our current sitting president, Sleepy Joe Biden. And it's also particularly funny because Piers Morgan's show is called Piers Morgan Uncensored. Yet we're about to hear Kanye West censored significantly. So let me go ahead and get this footage queued up for you. I'll even turn up the volume so you can hear the censorship beeps. This is a short that was published by Piers Morgan.
% of the world are placed in power, and 99% of the world are the audience. So that 1%.
Let me refresh this, make sure it's just going from the very beginning.
1% of the world are placed in power, and 99% of the world are the audience. So that 1% of the world, this idea of a United Nations, this is the world that needs to come together. This is the world that, here's the obvious go-to. Biden doesn't listen to Elon Musk.
Number one, does anyone notice that Kanye speaks in a very strange tonation? If you track back to, say, College Dropout Kanye and listen to his interviews, have you guys noticed, or is it just me, that his voice tonation has changed dramatically? A touch more feminine, a lot more like liberal Caucasian in his voice tonation. It's very strange how one's voice can change so radically. Weird. Just let me know if you notice the same thing. Just check it out. Moreover, I find it very funny that Ye basically suggested that the president of the United States, now mind you, the United States theoretically is a republic or a democracy, you might call it. It's really a republic. But if it's a democracy, it's a majority rule system, which is to say that we're supposed to have the leaders, succumb to the will of the public, the majority. And he's saying you should listen to Elon Musk, which I would say is quite anti-democratic and very plutocratic, which is to say a government run by the rich. So I find it strange that he suggested that Elon Musk should be like the unappointed advisor to the president. Very strange. And also, he's really positioning Elon Musk to be the president more than himself. So I don't know if he was very thoughtful in that. Not that I think he's very thoughtful in many of the things he does. I think he just starts talking. I don't know if he's on a pill when he's talking. I don't know if he's been off of his pills. I don't know which is the issue. Is it that he's on the pill or he ain't been on the pills? Who knows what the true problem is? But regardless of what that is, that was a very weird thing. And moreover, I think he might be forgetting that Elon Musk is a technologist just as much as you would say that Bill Gates is a technologist, Jeff Bezos is a technologist, and they've created some great technologies and products. And I would even go as far as to say Amazon is way more important than anything that Elon Musk has created, in as much as Amazon was an actual innovation. Elon Musk creates great cars, but it's not like without Elon Musk's cars, we'd be like, what would we do? Nah, you would just drive another electric car, not his. But in the absence of Amazon, I would really be like, whoa, what are we going to do? This is like worse than the war in Ukraine. Like, this is a problem, you see. So I'd say Jeff Bezos, in my opinion, is a much greater contribution to humankind and human efficiency. That being the case, when you're looking at a Bezos, a Musk, or a Bill Gates, let us still acknowledge that most people don't even like the contributions that Bill Gates is making to government, politics, and the world. Like, he's doing a lot of weird things average people don't agree with, like trying to modify weather systems and climate, and trying to seed clouds to increase rain in places that shouldn't have rain. He's trying to, reverse climate change when there's a significant number of scientists that say it's not even possible. And the ramifications of what Bill Gates is seeking to do with climate change could actually have the opposite effects and be irreversible. Yet he's still trying to do it without having gotten permission from any government or united bodies such as the United Nations. That being the case, it is clearly not wise to put the fate of a nation within the hands of any one man, be him wealthy or even sophisticated in the ways of technology and business. So I think this is a very silly opinion of Kanye West, and this is one of the things that makes me pray to God he doesn't get anywhere near running for office. And if he does, I think he would just be a sideshow and really distract and take votes away from a real candidate. So we'll see if he's nuts enough to put his name on the ballot. I hope not.
The President of the United States does not have meetings with Elon.
Best moments on YouTube. They're good, but they're missing some of your savage moments.
Oh, wow. No, I haven't seen that one. I'll have to look that one up, Marquett's best moments. See, I've seen Marquett's most savage moments, part 1 and 2, which are pretty good. Part 1 was pretty good. Part 2 actually had me laughing, so I enjoyed that one. I'll have to check this out.
Okay, Alante, the trucker, said peace to the Saints. It's phenomenal the way you break down the game. I appreciate the knowledge, peace, and prosperity to you and all the Saints watching.
That's a beautiful message. Thank you very much for sharing that. Caught up?
Yep.
All right.
Musk. That is, hey, here, come get me. That's, I know I'm not supposed to say that, Biden, but that's, and obviously because.
So you see Kanye right now is essentially being censored, and that's because he's saying that President Joe Biden not regularly consulting with Elon Musk, the businessman, is effing, and then the word he uses starts with an R, and this actually is a formal word in the English language. It is not a vulgar word. It has been made into a vulgar word. It used to be a formal diagnosis, actually, in medicine, but I think they now call it intellectually delayed, which is not quite a proper description of the true malady, but anyways, it's called intellectually delayed. So he's saying that the president is suffering from mental issues, as indicated by his failure to ask for Elon Musk's advice on a regular basis. Okay. There you go. And he's saying it in the most vulgar way, and he's also inviting more controversy, and he's saying, hey, come get me. I've said something that's not PC. And it's ironic because he just finished apologizing for saying something that's not PC. So I think that we're going to see Kanye going back and forth, and that's the nature of his personality. And if he does have mental health issues, I think this is also expressive of that, if that's the case. And truth be told, the way he's been conducting himself, I don't think we could really assign it to much else. But this is not to take away from his intelligence and his genius and his bravery, which are all clearly there.
As I've been deemed with mental health, all this, I have the right to use whatever words that I like to use.
Well, that's interesting. So
ask another question.
Well, yeah, let me ask you on that. So you just said something very inflammatory about President Biden. It will, as you know, offend a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it will particularly offend people who work in mental health. You say you should not use a word like
1% of the world are.
That was really weird. Like, Piers Morgan is such a leftist psychopath that he's always trying to calculate who's going to be offended. You know, that will offend a lot of people, especially people who work in mental health. Shouldn't it offend the people who have that ailment instead of the people who work with people who have the ailment? So, like, Piers Morgan half the time isn't even making sense. I think people hear the British accent, and unfortunately in America in particular, we associate intelligence to that accent, which, based on my personal experience with Brits and in the United Kingdom, every now and then they get off a clever joke. I'll give them that. But they're not the brightest people. No brighter than you would expect any person in a major city to be. And if they were bright, they'd probably try to have a freer country, because that country is not a free country. And I think their prime minister, who's a female, just resigned after 45 days on the job. What is she, African American? What's going on here? It's crazy. So anyways, they can't be the brightest star in the sky. They've hired a woman to lead their country, and she's thrown in the towel after 45 days. I'd say they're down bad. Anyways, carrying on. I guess that was an unnecessary side note, but what can you do?
Wilkins said, peace to the saints. Question, what would you do if a bad female is with her mother, father, brother in public? I shot my shot at a super bad, thick, light-skinned female at my job, but she kept saying she couldn't talk to me because of her mom. Peace to the saints.
Nah, I think it would be more accurate that she might not be able to talk to you because of her father, but mom is gonna root for her. You dig? If the shorty is feeling you, and if mom might even be feeling you too, like, don't count that out. You heard me? You might see shorty, her mom might peep you and be like, oh, that's a good looking young man, or like, he seems like he has his stuff together. He's really stylish, well put together. Mom is never gonna take you out of the game just because she's a mom. You know, mom remembers what it's like to be a young woman, and if she sees that you have some potential, she might even throw you in the game. So certainly that's not going to be a factor. Now, dad might take you out of the game just because he's not thoughtful. You know, if he comes from a backwards civilization, or excuse me, a backwards culture, a lot of guys are overprotective of their daughters as though they want to have intercourse with the daughter, right? It's like, no one's going to have intercourse with my daughter except me. It's like, come on, bro. Like, don't you want your daughter to have the opportunity to meet a man who might eventually marry her and, you know, take care of her? And, you know, that kind of backwardness you'll observe more among the male as opposed to the mom. So, yeah, go ahead and kick that game. And I want to promise you that a female that's into you, she going to make it work. Believe that. You know, whether she's like, look, I can't, you know, have you pull out your phone right now and write down my number, but I can tell you that my Instagram is sugarbaby434__212. I'm going to just say that one more time. Sugarbaby434__212. Go ahead and remember that. Holler at me. You know, they going to make it work, or they going to ask you for your number or your IG handle. Nah, like, those are excuses, and I wouldn't buy them. And it's all good. You're not going to win every ball game. But the key is that you shoot that shot, because you ain't going to score unless that shot goes up in the air.
Okay, Donovan said, this is to the people watching, why aren't you hitting the like button? Do you not appreciate the game? Did you forget? Comment your answer in the live chat. And we do have Caleb said he was so wrapped up in the game he forgot. Thanks for the reminder. So for everyone who's wrapped up, hit the like button.
And I respect that. You know, I respect Donovan asking a sincere question. I respect that, you know, it was a meaningful question, because some people did just forget. Yep. And so shout out.
On Cash App, Matthew said, respect for truth in your lectures.
You dig. It's hard to find truth nowadays, isn't it?
Carry on.
placed in power, and 99% of the world are the audience. So that 1% of the world, this idea of a United Nations, this is the world that needs to come together. This is the world that, I mean, here's the obvious go-to. Biden doesn't listen to Elon Musk. The president of the United
Can I just point out how much this doesn't make sense? Kanye West is saying that the 99%, which is to say the average person needs to be more included and more connected, right? Then he goes directly from saying that to say the president needs to listen to Elon Musk, which is the 1%. It's like, bro, how do you go from saying the 99% need to be included and then go directly to the antithesis, the 1%, and say, oh, you should listen to this guy? Come on, man. Like, what are we talking about here? This guy doesn't make any sense. And it just shows the stupidity of the masses, and the masses have always been imbeciles, in that they follow a Kanye who barely makes sense, and they listen to a Piers Morgan who is not as smart as he portrays himself as. This is the masses, and that's why I often remind you all that, if you can't get wealthy today, that's your fault, because you can't claim to be intelligent and not have anything to show for it. If you're smart, use that big brain to make yourself a buck, because there's not a high competition, right? Like Piers Morgan, what competition is he? I expect that I should eclipse Piers Morgan in a couple years if I don't end up getting censored. And Kanye West, what kind of a competition is he? I might as well go out and make $1 billion just to say that just so that Ye don't look at me like, how much money do you have? So maybe you should listen to me. Like, I can't have him saying that to me. I need to go make some more money, and I don't even have anything I really need to buy. You dig? I don't have anything to do with it, but I might just go do it to beat Ye. Carrying on.
Kate Layton said, Marquette, I admire seeing your growth across all social media platforms. What advice, tips do you have for someone trying to build a personal brand? Is there any side of you that you would not show?
I think that, I know that today there is nowhere to hide. So you can't really hide a side of you. And the funny thing is, even when you're being completely authentic, you'll still have detractors that'll call you a liar. For example, anyone who travels or has two pennies to rub together, that if you're at a 5-star hotel and you're at, the reputable brands, St. Regis, Waldorf Astoria, Ritz-Carlton, the reputable brands, you're spending between $500 to, $1,000 a night minimum. So if someone like myself is, say, on holiday for like 2 months straight, I'd probably spend about $30,000 on hotels. But you'll still have people say that, just crazy things like, oh, like, you're not this, you're not that. And I'm like, well, how, Sway? How, Sway? Like, all the evidence is there. So regardless of the evidence being there, people will still say that, a dime isn't a dime. People will still say that green ain't green, up ain't up. They're going to say up is down. They're going to say left is right. So I want to point that out to you, that even when you're real, people will say you're fake. But get this, if you're fake, then you're really in trouble. If you're fake, you're really going to experience some challenges. So for that reason, there's no side of me that I wouldn't show. I show all of the sides. And I'm actually a fairly simple guy. I'm not a very dynamic, complex person. I'm a simple guy. I like vanilla sex. I don't do any weirdo stuff, so I don't have any weird sex behaviors to hide. I don't engage in pornography and filth like that. I try my best to eat well, and I exercise every day. And when you track me on Instagram, you see, like, most of my travel, like, you just see me exercising whatever city I'm in, you just see me exercising there. And when I'm walking around throughout the earth, people recognize me all the time. Just today, when I was leaving a restaurant in Thailand, a guy was like, hey, I subscribe to you. Can I get a picture? Yeah, for sure. Let's take a photo. I can't pretend to be anything other than what I am, because when you reach a certain level of fame or clout or what have you, people are going to see you out, right? So like you can't pretend to be anything. You'll be exposed. So that's that. Then with regards to the what advice do I have for someone trying to build a personal brand, I don't like the concept of personal brand. I like to associate brand with products. I don't like to think of people as products, but I think of a man as having character. And what are the 3 things that you represent? For me, I like to focus on truth, prosperity, and family. Those are three things that are core to me. You know, truth is why I've been able to excel. Prosperity to me, means true abundance. And abundance is to have enough to give back. And that's what I've been focusing on in this stage of life. And then family is what I'm building with Assassin. I want everywhere you go to feel like you're among family. Like, for example, this particular hotel, like when I come back here, I feel like it's family. Like it's a beautiful experience. I want everyone to have that experience in life. Not just because you're paying a lot of money at a hotel, but, in real life, in society. That's what I represent. Those are my three values. So I'd say for a person, you have values that you represent, not so much a brand. Then you write, you admire my growth. Thank you very much. And, truth be told, all of this stuff is fragile. And so I'm enjoying the moment and I'm enjoying the present. We don't know, what the future holds or what haters of truth will try to censor me. So I'm enjoying what we have here and let us continue to build. And thank you for that kind message.
Okay, Isaiah said, how do I get my cute neighbor in my stable?
This man is savage. He plotting on his neighbor. That's dangerous stuff right there, bro. I can't say I haven't done it myself, but I just want to give you a heads up. Those are murky waters right there. So you haven't given me much information, but what I can tell you is that you have an advantage in as much as you can access familiarity. And you ever see a beautiful woman with a guy who's not so beautiful and not even wealthy? Like he broke, fat, and ugly. You're like, good Lord, how'd you catch Shorty? Well, he caught her because he got to see her frequently. She got worn down over time. People yield to convenience and women love familiarity. It gives them something called trust. She's your neighbor. It gives you an opportunity to have a lot of contact points with her. So if I were you, I would just increase my contact points with her and then see where things go. If she finds you to be minimally attractive, and if you're not a cornball or a weirdo and you're appropriately aggressive, things will go your way. So get some more FaceTime with her.
Keandre said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Carry on.
United States does not have meetings with Elon Musk. That is, hey, here, come get me. That's, I know I'm not supposed to say that, Biden, but that's, and obviously because I've been deemed with mental health,
so
all this,
hard,
I have the right to use whatever words that I like to use.
Well, that's interesting. So
hey, ask another question.
Well, yeah, let me ask you on that. So you just said something very inflammatory about President Biden. It will, as you know, offend a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it will particularly offend people who work in mental health. You say you should not use a word like
1% of the world are placed in.
So there we go. Piers Morgan, boy, this guy is not even interesting to talk to or listen at. I like those interviewers to where, of course, we're going to discuss what the most, the thing you're notable for right now. Like, yeah, you said some things that are anti-Semitic in some people's perspective. We're going to discuss that. But I like those interviewers that can create rapport and build some level of feeling of friendship and then dig deep and find out something that no one knew, like uncover some information. It's kind of like, what a good interrogator is able to do. Rather than be adversarial, they get you to feel some level of connection and then they pull out the information that they want. I'd be much more fascinated with that kind of interview, which we almost never see from Piers Morgan. Very basic, uninteresting guy. Again, he's like a DJ Academics. It's like it makes you wonder, like, how did this guy get this job? Just clearly it was not a merit-based system, because this guy is not interesting to listen to. And how hard is it to be interesting when you're talking to Kanye West? I mean, the dude is like he's a nut. I mean, it's like, he's a total nut. It's like, come on, this is the easiest thing to be interesting on earth. You still failed. Here's a funny little clip I got for you guys. This is actually, and by the way, to the saint who I mentioned, Marquett's best moments, I couldn't find that. I typed it in with quotations, and I couldn't find the video that you're talking about.
Maybe
so
he's referencing the Savage moments.
Oh, the Savage. Yeah, he's probably talking about the Savage moments. Okay, cool. So I'm going to give you this last video clip as we wind down. Please feel free to send in your thoughts, questions, comments. This is actually Piers Morgan reacting to his own interview with Kanye, which I think is funny. It's like, dang, bro, you really milking that content. My boy didn't react it to itself. I'm going to have to pull that move. I kind of like it, but it's, my boy didn't react it to itself. Here we go.
YouTube. He and I went head to head for 2 hours yesterday on everything from anti-Semitism to George Floyd to White Lives Matter, the T-shirt he wore, Kim Kardashian, of course, his ex-wife, and Donald Trump. Here's a taste of what's to come in our 2-hour special.
The funny thing, too, is you can tell by the nature of Piers' eyes, and a lot of these people have no soul, but surely Piers has no soul. You can tell that he's reading from a teleprompter. He's not actually looking into the camera the way I'm looking into the camera right now, speaking extemporaneously. You can see within my eyes that there's thought going on in my brain. He is looking and reading the words that someone else wrote for him to say. And that's why I could never respect one of these personalities.
Till tomorrow.
The interview everyone has been waiting for.
You're being a Karen.
I'm not a Karen.
Piers Morgan speaks exclusively to Ye, explaining his controversial comments on George Floyd.
As the most influential person on the planet, I am questioning it.
Kim Kardashian.
Would you like one day to get back with Kim?
And his anti-Semitic tweet that got him kicked off Twitter.
It is racism when you say I'm going
So
deaf for Jewish people.
No, it's not. Interview adjourned.
And then he walks out of the interview. And then he walks back in and apologizes.
I will say I'm sorry for the people that I hurt.
Piers Morgan Uncensored, exclusive 2-hour special, Friday, 8 p.m.
And there's a lot more where that came from. It was 2 of the most extraordinary hours I've probably ever had, I think, as an interviewer. Ye is no normal interview subject. He mocks my British accent.
I would love to hear Ye mocking his British accent. You know, recently I was talking to 2 British women, and I asked them, I was like, do you guys mock American accents? Because I for sure mock yours. They're like, yes, we do. I was like, okay, can I hear your American accents? No, I can't. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. What is British people, I don't know, like they try to like pretend to be like, you know, they're like pretend to be nicer than they are, I guess. Okay.
Your fat said they say you should only build one habit at a time, but is it possible to build multiple at once and completely turn your life around in 6 months?
Well, the truth is you could turn your life around in a moment. You know, behavior comes from decision. Like, for example, if currently you're a jack-off artist and you're about to get off of this session and go to Pornhub.com and beat your meat like it stole some money from you, and then you have a revelation that drives you away from that behavior, then you've changed in an instance. You know, people tend to think that you have to wean your way off of things. Sometimes you change in an instance. And like, for example, in my book, The Black Box, I wrote of a situation. It was after a purse snatching that had occurred. And obviously there's more to this story than I'm telling now. That's why I wrote it down in a book. It's called The Black Box. You can get it on Amazon. But in this instance, up to this point, I've been engaging in crime, all variety of crime. Purse snatching was never my thing, just side note. I was a part of a purse snatching. I didn't commit the purse snatching myself. But I was a part of it, which is good enough, right? Or I should say bad enough. And I was disgusted. And I was disgusted enough that I knew I was going to change in that moment. So some things come immediately when you're serious. And that can happen for one particular behavior or inclination, or it could happen for a number of behaviors. So that's number one. But generally speaking, yes, it is easier to focus on one thing at a time. And you should always ask yourself, what's going to give me the greatest ROI, return on investment, the greatest benefit for my effort? Sometimes there's just like one big thing that's holding you back, whether it's using prostitutes or not using condoms with strange women or gambling or being irresponsible with your money or staying in a relationship you should have left. These are common things that people suffer. And if you remove one of these vices, you'll see your life improve dramatically. Thank you.
Delights in being uncensored and then really tests the waters of our lack of censorship. He's rude about a lot of people. He's warm in parts. Well,
this guy's so boring.
For a few weeks of saying deeply inflammatory.
So here's the funny thing is he brings on this chick to also like react to the interview. And I'm like, who is this broad? Like, who is this broad? What does she have to do with anything? Does she know Kanye? Is she famous? Is it like, well, what's going on here?
Things about the Jewish people, about George Floyd, about White Lives Matter T-shirts, enraging community after community. Mm-hmm. What do you think of him? What's going on with him right now?
Well, I think he's clearly a very confused, very vulnerable guy who, I mean, as he said in your interview, you know, he has this huge platform. You know, he's the most influential person in the world, and perhaps the mental state he's in, we all know he's got, you know, mental health issues.
So he denies he has any mental illness. He said that to me. He said his main problem is sleep deprivation, which might well be the case because he's got one of those.
So you have Piers over talking this broad that he brought on this show, but the real question is like, who is she? How does she have any authority to speak on Kanye? Is she a hip hop expert? Is she a therapist? Is she a psychologist? Is she and even American? She's not even American. So you have two British folks, two white British folks speaking on a African American hip hop artist. Neither of these people are hip hop fans. Neither of them are certified therapists or psychologists or psychiatrists. They can't speak to the mental health. So I'm just wondering, like, where do they factor in to have any relevance in this conversation? And Pierce is low-key a nobody, and this chick is even more of a nobody because I'm like, who is she? And if you're going to be a nobody, at least be bad. You heard me? Just at least be bad. Shout out to her for having the velvet on because, you know, the velvet pimping. I like the velvet. But then again, I'm like, who is Shorty? And why she got them UK teeth? Don't they say that the British have bad teeth because they don't have free dental?
I'm not sure why they say it.
Oh, we don't know why. It's a stereotype. Anybody ever heard that stereotype? Is that just me? You heard that stereotype, right? Yeah. And you have some British people in your family.
Yes.
Are their teeth jacked up?
Not
Don't even answer that. They might be watching. Don't disrespect them like that. I saved you.
Tell you he's got an
Go ahead.
Matthew came back with another cash app. He said, any way to get unbanned off SC? I'm not sure if that's like Super Chat.
Snapchat, maybe?
Super Chat? I don't know.
Matthew Stevenson?
No, a different Matthew. He sent $20 earlier and he just sent more money on Cash App.
To get unbanned on SC?
Off SC. Is that what that's like Super Chat? Like,
I don't even know what SC is, bro. Like you gotta spell it out for your boy, man. Like I'm not as smart as some people think. So you gotta spell that out for me. But if you're talking about banned on YouTube, like we can unban you if you happen to be banned. But I will advise everyone, if I ever read one of your comments, I'm like, man, this is a dumb comment. I'm like, this is not the kind of person I want to be associated with. So I just ban people randomly. I'm like, that was a dumb comment. Boom, you banned. It don't even have to be disrespectful. It might just be actually dumb. I'm like, you banned.
You've also accidentally banned people as well.
I have also, was that me accidentally banning people? I think I only did that like twice.
It happens.
Yeah, it does happen because the chat moves quickly sometimes. And so, yeah, some people have been accidentally banned. Yeah.
If he's talking about Super Chat, what should he do?
He should DM on IG the URL of his YouTube account. So like his YouTube channel, so to speak. Just send me that URL and we can use that to remove the ban. And we've done that before. And I remember we did that. Yeah, I'm not getting into it. Carry on.
Incredibly restless, curious, fizzing mind. This is why he goes off on tangents all the time. Very hard to interview, but sort of compelling challenge as well. But I think there's something about his mind that's just not, it's not normal. No. Whether it qualifies as mental illness, he says not.
Well, I mean, if it was sleep deprivation, there'd be far more of us running our mouths on Twitter and our social media.
Is it any defence for some of the stuff he's been saying?
I don't think so, no. I mean, it was fascinating to watch your interview, the clips that we've seen. It was...
Look at her left hand. She's not even married. I don't trust a woman at her age that's not married. Yeah, I'm out on her. And why we're even asking her questions, like, I don't know. Like, what's her name? Piers don't even have the decency to put her name on screen. He has his own name is on screen, Piers, and Ye's name is on screen. But this no-name broad is going to remain a no-name broad because he ain't even put her name on screen. That's dirty. Wow.
Quite a journey with him, you know. I mean, a fantastic scoop. We'd be very proud of that. It was on our side. But, you know, for him to come out, you know, this whole concept of I'm fighting fire with fire, you know, it's one thing to, you know, stand your ground, be defensive. But he's also, I mean, he's like a kid in the playground that's like, oh, you know, that guy punched me, so I punched him back. It doesn't make it right. He can say he's been the victim of racism. That doesn't mean that he should target other groups. You know, it incites hate in different directions. And as someone with that profile, he shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. No, I think...
Yeah, that's so, like, uninteresting. I'm not even going to finish this one. Because it's like one uninteresting person talking to another uninteresting person. Nah, I'm out. I'll give you guys a little bit of time to send your thoughts, questions, comments as we wind down. Saints, it has been a pleasure to have this time to fellowship with you. Let us end with our tradition, the Creed of the Assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The Creed of the Assassin. I'm going to be who I truly am because I am remarkable. I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace to the saints.